every learner is unique. They think differently, feel differently, and learn differently. To understand this, imagine a learner named Arnav. In mathematics, he is confident. In language, he struggles. And in sports, he excels. And in social interactions, he is emotional. He represents the diversity we see in every classroom. Unit 3 helps us understand the complete journey of a learner, how they grow physically, intellectually, emotionally, and socially, how personality develops, how intelligence works, how learning takes place, and how guidance and counseling supports the learner. Let's begin this comprehensive one-shot on Unit 3, Learner and Learning Process. Before we go forward, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Eduquire. In this unit, we'll be discussing growth and development, approaches to intelligence from unitary to multiple, principles and theories of learning, and guidance and counseling. Let us begin with our first topic, growth and development. The first concept is the concept of growth and development. So what is growth? We'll write growth here and development here. So growth refers to the quantitative changes. What is growth? They are the quantitative changes. For example, the increase in your height, weight, size, length of the bones, and the physical maturity. It all stops after a certain age. So it starts, goes on for a time, and then it stops. Okay. For example, your height. Okay. Then maybe your size, length. So all of these, they grow and then they stop. But you can measure them quantitatively. So all the growth is a quantitative concept. Whereas development is qualitative. What is development? It is qualitative. So it refers to changes in your behavior, your emotions, thinking, personality, social relationships, language, and moral understanding. So development continues throughout your life. So it is an ongoing process. It never stops. Okay. So how you think, how you develop your behavior, how you develop your emotions, how you react in a social setting, all of that is development. So you keep on changing, right? So you keep on evolving as you go forward, and all of that is part of development. So growth is a very quantitative concept. It starts, goes on for some time, and then stops. But development, it is qualitative. It is a lifelong process. It keeps on going. Okay. So as soon as you are born, until a certain age, you grow in height, right? So all of those are quantitative, that can be seen. And development, it cannot be seen the way we can see growth. Okay, we can just see someone's behavior, we can see someone's development in their emotions, but you cannot quantify it. Okay, I cannot say that you have grown your intelligence by 2 centimeters, right? Which I can tell in growth. So growth and development are related, but they are not the same. Okay, people generally confuse growth and development. So growth supports development. Okay, as you grow, you develop also, right? You develop physically, emotionally. So growth leads to development, but they are not the same. Okay, but development is multidimensional. What is it? It is multidimensional. So for example, you grow your cognitive skills, physical skills, emotional skills, your social skills or your moral skills, right? All of that development happens in a multi-dimensional way, whereas growth is in one particular aspect. So a child may be physically well grown but emotionally immature, right? So similarly, a child may develop a language earlier than the physical strength. So understanding this difference, it is essential for teachers to avoid unrealistic expectations from the child. Okay, so we have to understand the growth and development pattern of the child to give them better guidance, or to have realistic expectations from the child, right? The next one is Principles of development. So development, as I told you, it follows a predictable pattern and universal laws. It follows predictable pattern. And everyone develops in the same way. So these are universal laws. So the first principle is cephaloclaudal principle. So what does it say? It says that development proceeds from head to toe. So if this is a person, okay, the development begins from the head and goes to the toes, okay, top to bottom approach. This is top to bottom. Starts near the head, goes till the toes. So children first, when they are born, as soon as they start growing, they develop the strength in their head and neck. They are able to lift their head or move it, right? Then they develop their shoulders, then their arms, hands, and then finally legs. So development starts from here and goes downward. The second principle is proximodistal development. Proximodistal. Proximodistal. That is, development begins from the center of the body and it goes outwards. So children gain control of their shoulders before mastering their finger movement, right? So they are able to move their hands first, okay? This part moves before they are able to grab onto something, hold onto something, or even move their fingers as they wish. So that is, if the development happens outwards, okay, from the center to outwards. So development proceeds from general to specific. Next principle is general to specific. What does it mean? That broad motor movements come before precise skills, okay? So they can scribble. If you give them a pencil, they can scribble. But writing letter A, B, C, that takes some time. So development, how does it happen? It happens in a general way. Anything that is there in their hand, they can just handle it this way. But for them to be able to write A, B, C, everything, it needs more development of their gross motor skills. So it goes from general skills to specific skills. Then development is continuous. It is a continuous process. So there are no sudden jumps, okay? Skills improve gradually, building on their previous abilities. So first they learn to move their shoulders, then their arms, hands, then fingers, then they learn to hold on to something, then they learn to write. Okay, so it is not that because they are able to move their shoulders, next day they will be writing, right? So development, it is a continuous process, happens one after the other. And development varies in rate. It varies in rate. What does it mean? Children develop at different speed, but the sequence remain the same. Some children may be able to talk at a very young age, walk at a very young age compared to the others. But every child follows the same pattern, but the rate at which they develop might differ, right? So development is influenced by heredity and environment. It is influenced by heredity and environment. Okay, so a child's genetic potential combined with family background, the type of nutrition they receive, the culture that they grow in, and the social interaction, all of this shape their development. So these are the various principles of development. Now let us look at some theories. Cognitive development theory of Piaget. So he believed that children actively construct their knowledge. What do children do? They actively construct knowledge. Right? So he divided them into four. Okay. First is sensory motor stage. This is from 0 to 2 years, that is from the time the child is born until the age of 2. So what happens here? Learning happens through senses. Okay, sensory motor. So learning happens through senses and motor actions. Senses and motor objects. So here object permanence develops. So children understand that an object exists even when it is out of sight. Okay, so this is the beginning of their memory and representational thought. So object permanence develops here. So they learn that even if they cannot see the object, it still exists in reality. Just because they cannot see it, it has not disappeared. Okay, that is what the child learns through object permanence, and this is the beginning of developing their memory. Okay, and their representational thought. The next one is pre-operational stage. Pre-operational stage. Now this is from 2 to 7 years. Okay, so here rapid language development happens. Language development. The child starts learning to speak, and children here are very egocentric. Remember this word, very important. Sorry, egocentric. So they are very egocentric. They see that world from their perspective only. They are not able to differentiate and have that empathy with others. Okay, so they show centration, that is focusing on one aspect of a situation. Because they are egocentric, they focus only on one aspect. Okay, they don't see things in a multidimensional way, and they lack logical operations. They lack logical operations or logical thinking, you could say, and they struggle with conservation tasks. So imagination and symbolic thinking are strong here. Okay, so they imagine all this play thing that they do, right? So all of this is their imagination. They ask so many questions. So imagination and symbolic thinking. Imagination and symbolic thinking, right? The next one is concrete operational stage. Concrete operational stage. This is 7 to 11 years. Okay, so what happens in this stage? Logical thinking about concrete objects develop. So they develop logical thinking in this stage. And children understand conservation, classification, seriation, and reversibility. Okay, so their thinking has improved. They are able to understand things in a broader perspective, and they can solve problems. Okay, problem solving skill is developed here. Problem solving based on real things they can see or handle, but not abstract ideas. Okay, so whatever they can see, they can think about it, but their abstract thinking has not developed. Abstract thinking, it is not developed. The next one is formal operation stage. Formal operation stage. This is 11 plus years. Okay, any child above the age of 11 falls in this category. Okay, even adults. So here they are able to develop this. Abstract thinking now comes here. Okay, they are able to develop abstract thinking. Okay, their thinking is out of the box, multidimensional, and they are also able to think hypothetically. Hypothetical thinking also develops, right? And learners, they can reason scientifically, they can solve problems and think about various possibilities. So they can reason scientifically, that is, they can give reasons why they are supporting an idea, they can give proof for it. Okay, and they can solve problems. They can solve problems and they can think about various possibilities. Okay, They are able to see one thing from various perspectives and develop these various possibilities about it. And then moral and ethical reasoning becomes more advanced. So moral and ethical reasoning, it develops during this stage and it becomes more advanced. Okay. Next, let us look at some personality theories. Okay, the first one is Freud's psychoanalytic theory. So what he believed, he said that personality has three components. Okay, he said personality has three components. What is the first one? First one is id. Second one is superego. Sorry, second one is superego. Yes. Last one is ego. So what he says, it seeks pleasure and immediate gratification. It seeks pleasure and immediate gratification. Whereas superego, what does it do? It represents more moral conscious. What does superego do? It represents moral conscience and societal rules. So it tells you to follow the rules, okay? It doesn't let you go with the flow. It helps you to reason the things out that you are doing, okay? So follow societal rules. Next is ego. So ego mediates between it and superego using realistic strategies. So it is kind of a mediator. It is saying, I need this right now, even though it is something that you cannot get right now, but it is telling that I need this right now by hook or crook. Superego is telling you that at present we may not have the resources to get it, so let us wait for some time. That is superego, trying to follow the moral concise and trying to follow the societal rules. Now ego is a mediator between it and superego. Okay, it is trying to balance the thing out with rational thinking. So ego mediates between it and superego using realistic strategies. So the internal conflict among these parts, it influences our behavior. So all these three together, they influence our behavior. Right? So Freud believed childhood experiences leave deep impressions on their personality. So all of these three, the way they develop, they are based on the childhood experiences that a person goes through. Okay. Next one is Carl Rogers and his humanistic theory. So he emphasized self-concept. What did he emphasize? Self-concept. So he said that self-concept is the way individuals see themselves. Okay, how you see your own self, it is called the self-concept. So healthy personality develops when children experience unconditional positive regard. That is, they are accepted without any judgment. So as a child, okay, if you accept them and not judge them for their actions, they develop a positive self-concept. Okay. So when learners are supported emotionally, they develop confidence and authenticity. So you have to support them emotionally. What will it do? It will develop their confidence. Okay. It will develop their confidence and their authenticity in what they are doing. And their authenticity. Okay, so teacher plays a very important role by creating a nurturing environment. As teachers, you need to develop a child. Okay, you need to accept them for who they are rather than judging them for their mistakes. You have to develop them emotionally, support them emotionally so that they develop confidence and authenticity. Next is Allport's trait theory. So Allport says personality consists of traits. Okay, traits. What are traits? They are stable qualities. Traits are the stable qualities. So he says that cardinal trait dominates a person's life, but they are rare. Okay, there are cardinal traits. Okay, so what do these cardinal traits do? They dominate a person's life, but they are very rare. Then we have central traits. Central traits are major characteristics. Okay, central traits are the major characteristics that a person has, such as honesty, curiosity, kindness. All of these are central traits, whereas cardinal traits dominate a person's life. Okay. Then we have secondary traits. What are secondary traits? They are preferences such as food choices or your hobbies. All that you have are secondary traits. Okay, personal preferences. So understanding the traits helps the teacher to predict the learner's behavior. Understanding their cardinal traits, understanding their central traits, like what are the major characteristics in this child, or understanding their secondary traits such as their preferences, okay, what food they like or what hobbies they like, help us to understand the learner better and provide them accordingly. The next one is Gestalt perspective on personality. So Gestalt psychologists, they believe that personality is organized and understood as a whole. Okay, you cannot read it in parts. You have to read personality. Okay, personality is organized and should be read as a whole. So they emphasized on insight learning. They emphasized on insight learning. So what they said, a sudden realization or understanding of a solution. So learners sometimes they grasp concepts not by step learning but by meaningful patterns. Okay, instead of telling them that after this thing happened, then this thing happened, you are giving them only a very narrow perspective. But if you tell them that this is how the whole thing goes, let us understand it part by part, that is how they will learn better, right? Then telling them part by part and then telling them to put it as a whole, you give them the whole picture first, let them study it as a whole, then they will be able to understand parts of it. Okay, so even personality is like that. You cannot read a specific trait by trait, but rather read personality as a whole to understand that person better. The next topic is mental health and mental hygiene. So what is mental health? It is the emotional well-being. Emotional well-being is called mental health. Okay, so it is the ability to cope up with any stressful situation, to be able to maintain relationship with others and to function effectively. All of that is mental health. What is mental hygiene? It is your habits. Okay, the habits that you cultivate to maintain your mental health. All the habits that you cultivate to maintain your mental health are called as mental hygiene. Okay, so for example, if you are sleeping for 8 hours regularly, or if you are having a balanced routine, you know how to express yourself emotionally, you know when to ask for help, you know how to manage your time effectively. All those are the small habits that you cultivate. All of these habits lead you to have a good and better mental health. So a learner who has a good mental hygiene, he is more attentive in class, okay, and to his surroundings. He is more motivated to do things around. He is more emotionally regulated. He knows how to maintain his emotions, okay. He is emotionally regulated and he is very socially adjusted, okay. He is well aware of his surroundings. So with this, topic 1 finishes. Let us go forward and see the next topic, that is intelligence, thinking and creativity. Okay. The first one in this is approaches to intelligence. So earlier intelligence was seen as a single it was seen as a single global ability. But modern psychology, it has recognized intelligence to be multidimensional. It is multidimensional. Okay, so it includes academics, your social interactions, creativity, your practical things, emotional aspects. So it is not one single aspect. Okay, intelligence is not only academically doing well, if you're doing good socially, if you're creative, if you're practical, if you're emotional. So there are different things when you say someone is intelligent. It is not a single path, it is multidimensional, multidirectional. Okay. So the first one is Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. So Gardner, he proposed that there are 8 types of intelligence. Okay. The first one is linguistic intelligence. Linguistic intelligence, that is having a good language skill. The next one is logical mathematical skills. Logical mathematical skills, that is having good reasoning ability. Okay, it is not that he is able to solve all the maths problems, not like that. He has good reasoning ability, so it is logical mathematical intelligence. Another one can be spatial intelligence. Spatial intelligence, that is visual intelligence. Okay, so he knows, if he has gone in that direction once, he remembers everything there. So more spatially he is aware of his surroundings. Okay, next one is musical intelligence. Musical intelligence, that is he is able to catch the rhythm around him. THM, yes. The next one is bodily kinesthetic. Bodily kinesthetic, that is he has good movement in his body. Okay, someone who is plays a lots of games, is physically active, that is bodily kinesthetic. Next one is interpersonal, that is understanding others. Okay, interpersonal, understanding others. After that, it is intrapersonal, he is self-aware. Interperson is someone else. Intra, intrapersonal. It is self-awareness. Okay, knowing about your own self. So we have listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and your last one is naturalistic. That is has a good environmental understanding. Okay, naturalistic, that is having good environmental understanding. So these are the different types of intelligence according to Gardner. So according to this theories, learners according to this theory, learners differ in strength. So a child might be good in music, he may not excel in maths, okay, but he is still intelligent in his own way. Just because he does not understand mathematics, you cannot say that he is not intelligent. He is intelligent in some other aspect. So teachers should design diverse instructional methods and assessments to accommodate these different intelligences in the classroom, right? Next one is Sternberg's triarchic theory. So he believed that intelligence has 3 components. Sternberg says that intelligence has 3 components. That is why they said triarchic. Okay. So it is analytical intelligence. One is analytical intelligence. Next is creative intelligence. Analytical intelligence, creative intelligence, and practical intelligence. Okay, so analytical intelligence is logical reasoning and logical reasoning and problem solving. Okay, so if you have these skills, you are analytically intelligent, right? Next, creative intelligence is he is able to innovate and think originally. Okay, he is able to bring some kind of innovation, okay, and is able to think originally. And practical intelligence is ability to apply knowledge in real world situation. Apply knowledge in real world situations, right? So he says he believed that intelligence has three components: analytical, creative, and practical. So a balanced development of all these three, it leads to overall intellectual competence. Overall intellectual competence. How do you get this overall intellectual competence? By developing all these three, okay? Analytical, creative, and practical intelligence. The next one is emotional intelligence. So it involves understanding one's own emotions and recognizing others' emotions, regulating their feelings, showing empathy, and managing interpersonal situations. So first you need to understand your own emotion, understand others' emotions, should be able to regulate your feelings, okay? You should be able to show empathy towards others, okay? Should be able to show empathy and manage interpersonal situations, okay? If there is something happening between you and the other person, you should be able to manage that. So manage interpersonal situations. So learners who have high emotional intelligence, they are able to handle stress in a better way, okay? They can handle stress and they can resolve conflicts very easily. Resolve conflicts easily, and they work well in a team, okay? Well in teamwork, okay? Because they are able to manage and understand not only themselves but others also. They are able to manage in a team and coordinate with others. Next is social intelligence. So it is the capacity to understand social situations, okay? So if you are out with others, you have to be able to understand your surroundings, okay? So social situations. And you also need to understand group behavior. What is happening right now in this group? Why people are behaving in a certain way? And you need to understand social relationships. So social intelligence is basically understanding the group around you, okay? Why they are behaving in such a way? What are the different things that are going on in the group? So it helps learner to communicate properly. Okay, so if you know what kind of group this is, how they will work, so your communication improves, you are able to collaborate with others, okay? If you know the different people in the group, you can collaborate better, use everyone's potential to their maximum, and also they can adapt socially, okay? They can adapt socially if they have good social intelligence. Then what is thinking, problem solving, critical thinking, metacognition, creativity, what are all this? So problem solving, what does it include? It includes problem solving. First you have to identify a problem, okay? First you will identify the problem, then you will generate a solution for this problem, okay? So identifying, generating the solution. Now out of all the generated solutions, you have to select the best option, okay? That is how you solve a problem. What is critical thinking? Critical thinking is evaluating information logically. Whatever information is given to you, you have to critically analyze it. You have to think, if I take option A, okay, if I choose it, what are the different possibilities? If I choose option B, what are the different possibilities? So think of all this and then take your decisions. So first you have to analyze the situations. If you have to think critically, you have to first analyze the situations, then you will compare your ideas, okay? After analyzing, you will get a number of solutions. You have to compare those ideas and you have to make a reasoned judgment, okay? Why you are choosing such a thing should be well reasoned, okay? Next, after that you have metacognition. Metacognition, what is metacognition? It is thinking about thinking. Thinking about thinking. Now you might ask, what is thinking about thinking? How do you think about thinking? Okay, so being aware of how one learns, okay, identifying your own strengths and weaknesses and using appropriate strategies. Okay, so having better understanding of your own self, okay, and about others. So being aware of how you learn, okay, identifying what are my strengths, what are my weakness, and what are the strategies that I can use. So all of that is metacognition. You're thinking about your thinking, right? Then creativity. What is creativity? It involves originality, not copying someone's ideas, okay? Originality and the fluency of your ideas, your flexibility, your imagination, all of that shows how creative you are, right? The next concept is learning theories, okay? We have different learning theories. The first one is behavioristic theory. You all have heard of Pavlov's classical conditioning. Here what happens? Learning happens through association. Learning, it happens through association. What do you mean by this? You might have all seen Pavlov's experiment. Okay, there is a dog. Okay, imagine this to be a dog. Okay, okay. There is a dog, so he paired a bell with the foot. So every time the foot comes, he rings that bell, and because of that the dog starts salivating, okay, at the sound of the bell alone. So after a point of time, the dog realizes that every time he hears the sound of the bell, he knows that he is going to get food, and he starts salivating. So after a point, he just rings the bell. He doesn't bring food, but he still sees the dog salivating. So what does this show? That over a period of time, the dog has developed this behavior, okay? It is that the sound of the bell. That is the classical conditioning, okay? They showed that behavior can be conditioned through repeated pairing of stimuli, okay? Stimuli and a response. So every time a stimulus is given, okay, in this case it is a bell, he received a response. What is the response? Salivation, okay, because of food. So every time you give a stimulus, you get a response, okay, that is classical conditioning. The next one is Skinner. He has talked about operant conditioning. What is it? Learning through consequences. It is learning through consequences. Okay, so what happened? Skinner placed the rat in a box, okay, with a lever. So when the rat pressed the lever, food appeared. Okay, so he seeing the food appearing when he is pressing the lever, the rat started doing it again and again. So it has developed that understanding that if it presses this lever, the food will appear. So every time, okay, every time the good behavior was displayed, it was rewarded. Okay, so reward, what did it do? Reward strengthened the behavior. Reward, what does it do? It strengthens the behavior. But at the same time, if there is an unwanted behavior that is being displayed, it will be punished. Okay, so punishment will be given in case of unwanted behavior. So every time the rat was given the punishment, it knew that this is not something that I have to do. So this theory, what did it do? It explained that habits, discipline and classroom behavior management can be developed through reward and punishment. So whatever is going in the class, the students' habits, okay, their behavior, all of these could be managed through reward and punishment if you are using operant conditioning in your classroom. The next one is Thorndike's trial and error learning. So he used the puzzle box with the cats. Okay, Thorndike observed that cats initially struggled, but through trial and error they discovered how to escape. Okay, so if this is the box, the cats have to enter from one side. They have to struggle to get out. So initially the cats were struggling, but through trial and error they were able to discover how to escape from this box. So with repetition they escaped faster. So he formulated what? Law of effect. Okay, he spoke of law of effect. What did he say? That behaviors followed by satisfaction are strengthened. Okay, so if there is some behavior, okay, and with that behavior some kind of satisfaction is being received, then they are strengthened. Satisfaction, strengthened behavior. Okay, at the same time he spoke of law of exercise. Law of exercise, that is, practice strengthens your learning. The number of times you practice, okay, your learning improves. So practice improves learning. Okay, next, law of readiness. Law of readiness. What does it say? That learning occurs best when the learner is prepared. Okay, only if the learner is prepared to learn something, he has that mindset that he wants to learn, only then learning can happen. So learner needs to be ready. Okay, he needs to be prepared. So learning, it occurs when learner is prepared to learn. Learner is prepared to learn. The next one is cognitive learning theories. So Piaget, what did he do? He emphasized cognitive structures and he gave us developmental stages. Piaget, he spoke about developmental stages, okay, how our brain develops at different stages, and we will develop cognitively. Okay, Brunner. What did Brunner do? He emphasized or he highlighted discovery learning. Next is Brunner. What did he do? He highlighted discovery learning and scaffolding. As you scaffold a child, he will learn better and better. So here you can talk about scaffolding. 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 Okay. So if you have to teach learner something that he does not know, you start with something that the child already knows and you help the child to scaffold the previous knowledge to build this new knowledge. Okay. Next is Ausubel. So what did Ausubel do? Ausubel emphasized meaningful learning and prior knowledge. He stated that most important factor influencing learning is what the learner already knows. Okay. So what did Ausubel say? He emphasized that meaningful learning and prior knowledge. For meaningful learning to happen, you need to stress on the prior knowledge of the child. You can only build on the prior knowledge of the child for him to remember and understand these concepts effectively. Okay, so these theories, they view learner as an active thinker. Okay, cognitive learning theory say that learner is an active thinker and he is able to construct his own knowledge. Okay. Next is social learning theory of Bandura. So what did he say? He believed that learners, how do they learn? By observation. Okay, by observing others. Learners learn by observing others. So this observation, it involves attention, retention, reproduction and motivation. What does observation involve? It involves attention. Okay, observing, that is looking at others, having that attention. While you are observing, you should have attention. Then you should be able to retain what you have seen. Okay, what you have observed. So first you need to pay attention, look at that, then you have to retain that information, then reproduce it. Reproduction, and at last there should be motivation. Okay, so children, they imitate behavior when they see models being rewarded. Okay, so if you are showing a child that this behavior will be rewarded, if you keep on showing it again and again, children will learn the same behavior. They will imitate because they are being rewarded. So social learning, it explains how children acquire social behavior, how their language pattern develops, how their attitude develops. Okay, so if you are showing positive models or positive expectations to the child, they will develop in a similar way. But if you show these negative things, the social learning will not be very effective. So whatever the child is observing socially, it should be good, it should be appropriate for him, it should help the child to develop. Okay. Next is social cognition, social competence, and socialization. So what is social cognition? Social cognition is the learner's ability to understand others' thoughts, their motives, their emotions. So understanding others. Social cognition is understanding others, okay? Understanding what are their thoughts, what are their motives, and what are their emotions. Next one is social competence. What is that? It is the ability to interact effectively. Social competences, ability to interact effectively. Okay, so showing cooperation, empathy, and communication or conflict resolution, all of that is social competence. Okay, he is able to interact with others effectively. What does socialization do? Socialization helps the learner acquire the social values. Okay, social values, how to behave in the society, what are the norms of the society, what are the different roles of the society. Okay, all of this they understand through socialization. So social cognition is understanding about others, social competence is how to interact with others effectively, and socialization are the social values or norms and roles that the society has. The child has to understand all of these. Okay. The last topic is guidance and counseling. So let us understand the nature, need, and principles of guidance and counseling. So guidance is assistance. Okay, let me write here. Guidance, and here we have counseling. So what is guidance? It is assistance that we provide to someone. Okay, assistance. Now this assistance can be in terms of their education or their vocational skills or personal areas. Okay, in terms of education, in terms of vocational education, or in terms of the personal things. Okay, whereas counseling, it is more deeper than guidance, it is more therapeutic. It is more therapeutic. Okay, it is a more therapeutic process, and it helps the learners to develop their, it helps them to develop their emotions. Okay, their relationships, their emotions, their relationships with others, and their behavior. Okay, so the principles of guidance and counseling, they include that whatever information is there, it should be confidential. You should respect others' information. There should be individuality. You should not judge someone for whatever they are saying. There should be flexibility and continuity. Okay, the major one, if you ask me, it is having confidentiality. Confidentiality. Okay, and there should be no judgment. Also, anyone can give you guidance. Okay, any expert in that field can give you guidance, but not everyone can give you counseling. Okay, so there are specified people only who should be allowed to give this counseling. Our next topic is types of guidance. So what types of guidance do we have? I just told you, we have educational guidance, Educational guidance. Here it helps with study habits, what subject to choose maybe after 10th, what are the career paths after 12th, how to plan our academics, all of that is educational guidance. Then you have vocational guidance. Okay. Vocational guidance. It is to help with career decisions. Okay, what career should I choose? How is the growth in that? All of that is vocational guidance. Then there is personal guidance. Personal guidance. It helps with emotional and psychological adjustment, understanding our own selves, understanding our emotions, understanding our what is going inside us. So all of that is personal guidance. Okay, to help us become better. Next is social guidance. Social guidance, it helps with interpersonal relationships. Okay, now in school you might have seen kids that this kid is not talking to me or my friend is not talking to me. Okay, so all of that social guidance, helping with interpersonal relationships, is social guidance. Then you have health guidance. Last one is health guidance. It is focused on physical and mental well-being. Okay, physically you should be well, mentally you should be well, so for that also there is guidance. Now let us look at the different counseling approaches. Okay, you have directive counseling, which is let us look at the counseling approaches. You have directive counseling and you have non-directive counseling. Okay, so what is directive counseling? It is counselor centered. It is counselor centered. That is, the counselor, he analyzes the problem and gives the solution. Counselor first analyzes your problem and then gives you a solution. Non-directive counseling, it is developed by Carl Rogers' humanistic theory that we discussed. It is more client oriented. It is client oriented. That is, the counselor listens, supports and guides the client to self-discovery. Here the counselor is not identifying the problem and giving solution. Counselor is helping the client to the counselor is helping the client. Okay, he is listening to the problems or the issues listed by the client. He is supporting the client to take his or her own decisions and he is guiding them to take better decisions. Okay, so it is more client oriented than the counselor centered. Okay, then you have eclectic counseling. The third one is eclectic counseling. Now this is combination of both methods depending on the situation. Okay, it is a combination of these two. Eclectic is combination of both directive and non-directive based on the situation that is there in front of the counselor. The last concept is theories of counseling. Okay, so behavioristic counseling uses reinforcement to change behavior. Now we have REBT counseling. What is it? Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy. This was given by Albert Ellis. Okay, so he focused on identifying and replacing the irrational beliefs with rational thoughts. So first you have to identify. What you have to identify? Irrational thoughts or beliefs. And once you identify them, you have to replace them. Replace with what? Rational thoughts and beliefs. So, REBT, that is Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, involves identifying irrational thoughts and beliefs and replacing them with rational thoughts and beliefs. The last one is reality therapy. It was given by William Glasser. Okay, so what he said, he focused on the present, okay, their personal responsibilities and realistic choices. Okay, what is happening in real time now, the focus is on that, not on future or what has happened in the past already. So what is going on in the present, what responsibilities does the client have, okay, what responsibilities does the client have, and how they can make realistic choices. This is the focus of reality therapy by William Glasser. Okay, with this we come to the end of this chapter. I hope you have understood all the major topics. Now let us try to assess our understanding. Okay, we'll answer a few MCQs. Question number 1. A learner shows excellent conservation ability but struggles with hypothetical reasoning. So which instructional strategy is most appropriate? Okay. Provide abstract problem solving tasks, use manipulators, charts and concrete examples, introduce deductive reasoning worksheets, use metacognitive reflection journals. The correct answer is option B. We will use manipulators, we will use charts and concrete examples to develop his hypothetical reasoning. Okay. A teacher wants to enhance students' metacognitive skills. Okay, wants to enhance students' metacognitive skills. So which activity best supports this goal? Repeating information until memorized, providing opportunities for role play, asking learners to explain how they solved a problem, giving a written test to assess content knowledge. Metacognition is thinking about thinking. So if you ask a learner to explain how they have solved a problem, he will think how he has arrived at this solution. So it is asking learners to explain how they solved a problem. Next question. A child watches a senior bully another student. According to Bandura, which factor most determines whether the child will imitate this behavior? Complexity of the behavior, ability of rewards for the senior, presence of an unconditioned stimulus, amount of prior rehearsal by the child. It is availability of rewards to the senior, right? So only the child will imitate when there is something positive coming out of it. Here in this case there is nothing. A learner scores average on an IQ test but excels in music production and rhythm creation. Which theory best supports a re-evaluation of the learner's abilities? Spearman's two-factor theory, Gardner's multiple intelligence theory, Sternberg's triarchic theory, Jensen's theory of intelligence. It is option B, Gardner's multiple intelligence theory. He is average on IQ test, but he is excelling in music production, right? So it is the musical skill or musical intelligence that the child has. Next, a student repeatedly fails to complete homework and believes, I am incapable, so why try? Which counseling approach is most effective? Directive counseling focusing on strict behavioral rules, reality therapy focusing on present choices, REBT focusing on disputing irrational beliefs, Gestalt therapy focusing on insight development. It is option C, REBT focusing on disputing irrational beliefs, and once you identify irrational beliefs, you have to replace them with rational beliefs. Okay, you have to make the child understand that he is capable of doing this. Next, question number 6. A teacher provides real life scenarios where students choose solutions evaluate peer ideas, and justify decisions. Which type of thinking is being most directly enhanced? It is divergent thinking, convergent thinking, critical thinking, or associative thinking. It is option C, critical thinking. Once the teacher has given them a scenario, they are critically analyzing the solutions present to them. Okay, they are evaluating their peers and they are justifying the decision that they have taken. So they are thinking critically. Next, question 7. A learner demonstrates strong interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence but weak spatial and logical skills. Which learning method is most effective for such a profile? Independent silent reading tasks, group discussion with self-reflection activities, spatial puzzles and numerical drills, teacher-centered lecture format. It is option B. Okay, strong interpersonal, so therefore group discussions. Intrapersonal, so self-reflection activities. Next, question number 8. So a child shows sudden improvement in solving puzzles after watching another child attempt it incorrectly. Which mechanism of Bandura's theory is most evident? Response generalization, retention through symbolic modeling, inhibitory effect, vicarious learning through negative modeling. It is retention through symbolic modeling. Okay. Next, question number 9. During a counseling session, a student says, "Everyone must like me or I am worthless." An REBT counselor would first aim to explore childhood causes, challenge the word must as irrational, suggest behavioral alternatives, apply reinforcement for social skills. It is option B. He will challenge the word must as irrational. Okay, it is an irrational thought or a belief that the child has. You have to replace it with rational thought. Question 10. A learner in the formal operational stage is most likely to succeed in which of the following tasks? Memorizing multiplication tables, understanding object permanence, explaining why democracy would fail in an imaginary society, sorting objects based on color and size. Formal operational stage. He will be able to explain why democracy would fail in an imaginary society. Okay. So Unit 3 helped us understand learners holistically, how they grow, how they think, how they feel, how they learn, and how they can be guided. So when teachers understand the learners deeply, teaching becomes more meaningful and effective. Thank you for learning with Eduquire. If this video helped you prepare for UGC NET, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Eduquire. See you in Unit 4, Teacher Education. Thank you.